Well, this week, Governor Bill Haslam and his wife, Chrissy, have made a point of promoting literacy and they're expressing the belief that literacy is important, that knowing how to read is important. The Read to Be Ready campaign kickoff was Wednesday, and it will highlight our collective and aligned strategies to improve reading that will lead to better thinkers and workers in Tennessee. That is according to a government statement. The program is very ambitious. It hopes to have at the third grade level 75% of the students in the factory school reading at grade level by 2025. Right now, that is about 43%. So nearly doubling the number of children in the third grade reading at their own level. And yet, illiteracy and functional illiteracy are a public policy goal. It is not a public policy goal, in fact, to have high literacy among the common people, not people like you, my listener. Of course, you are an uncommon man joining me here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, but among the proletariat, right? The proles, the working man, the employee, the man who, with his family, has two jobs. No, there's not a book in the house. There are, of course, many devices, including old devices which no longer work, old computers and so on, lying about and strewn along the wall of the basement of that man's house. That man is the one who we need to make sure does not have the ability to think independently, which comes from reading. Literacy is the sword of the man who cares for liberty. It is the sword of the man who cares for prosperity and defending his estate and increasing his estate for God's glory, I would like to suggest. Illiteracy and functional illiteracy are instruments that are used by others upon him who is to be simply the consumer, right? The man who is the shopper, who consumes, who borrows, who is a materialist and an evolutionist, who is content with the way things are and sees nothing wrong with being a patron of free state services and existing by and large in the area and in the realm of commercial government, which is to say under administrative law as a kind of party benefited by the state in its many operations and services. That in the official economy, we could say, right? The official state economy here in Tennessee and elsewhere. I don't think it's different really in any other state of the federal union. We are to be subjects. We are to be not free men. I know this is true because in courts, as I have witnessed, the state is highly offended at anyone who wants to assert a constitutional right. The state itself, the deep state behind it, will fight tooth and nail to prevent any exercise of a constitutional liberty. As we are following that particular narrative line out of Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and the case of Arthur J. Hirsch, the laborer, the intelligent laborer who is a literary man, no less than a laborer. Right? A laborer is a very dignified occupation, calling, and if you're a laborer who knows how to read, well, you are an enemy, and we're going to fight you tooth and nail, and we're going to indict you as often as we can. If you try to exercise a constitutional right here in Tennessee, you cannot exercise a constitutional right. What do you think? Who do you think you are to try to exercise a constitutional right and to show leadership? Now, I say the word leadership because it is in the news today, and it is part of. If you think about it, it really is part of the literacy story that is our. I think it's by God's providence, the story lines up with my introduction. I have someone to whom I wish to introduce you, my listener, a man who cares very deeply about real literacy and who understands that the only way to literacy is phonics. Phonics is the only way to literacy. There are no hybrids at work. And because every hybrid takes part of the other deaf, the deaf way of teaching reading, which might serve one who's deaf, right? Who never heard a syllable in his life. You can teach reading to that person, but you wouldn't want to use that method to teach someone who has ears to hear and can make sounds rise from letters and combinations of letters, because that point right there is the point, is the one which trips up the whole state apparatus with its continuing reading crisis, which has been going on for years and years. Decades of reforms have not solved the reading crisis. Right? It's 70 or 80 years old. And the explanation of it is only 40 years old, right? The explanation for the reading crisis is a new thing. It's 40 years old and has very few people who believe the answer to the problem. All right, the answer to the problem is there. And guess where that answer came from? It came from the private sector. It came from people who saw behind the mask of the state with its leadership, right? The state's leadership. Well, leadership is something, I think, which we overly esteem. I'm actually against leadership, because leadership in the common parlance means something other than what you think. You think it means one thing, and yet at the hands of people who matter, even here in Hamilton County. In fact, the good people who are on our side, right, who are on your side in Hamilton County, the word leadership means something other than you think that it means. You think leadership means the ability to lead, right? The ability to understand things and to lead and to break the mold, right? To get outside convention. Well, that's not what leadership is. Leadership is operating within strict conventions and understanding your resources and the obstacles you have toward progressing toward your goals, your policy goals within those conventions. Okay, that's what leadership is. It's not anything counter-revolutionary or revolutionary. It's nothing violent. It's not really very exciting. It is leadership is really the means by which one man of influence can get other people to conform. That's what leadership is. I'm afraid to say that, because I'm sure there are instances where it's not true. But I think overall, if you have leadership classes, leadership seminars, and the like, through your chambers of commerce and whatnot, you end up not having people who are distinct and who fight for principle. The principle that you, my listener, want to fight for, you're trying to figure out how to fight for it, okay? You don't really want to fight for principle because it's kind of scary, and neither do I, right? But somehow you and I together, we're going to figure out what to do, right? How to have local economy, how to have free markets, and how to bring prosperity to ourselves, our children, and people around us, right? The civic side of capitalism, of free market capitalism. Well, to the point on leadership, right? We got leadership in view. We have literacy in view, and there's a story that kind of comes between the two and sheds light on both sides, if you will. And it's by Matt Pulford, who is a young writer at Nooga.com, and it's about the laws program, the law enforcement working in schools program that is discussed by Sheriff Jim Hammond. It's as he says, kicked off his new initiative. The word initiative already is new, right? It's something that's starting. So a new initiative is slightly redundant, but I understand what he means by that. And it is a tour in Hamilton County schools. And in that tour, the sheriff is speaking with and hearing from students at Red Bank High School. And that was yesterday. Now, the program is from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, and it is about the SRO, the school resource officer. The goal is to, as the story says, increase lines of communication between students and law enforcement officials, according to a news release. The children in our schools today are tomorrow's leaders. Okay, here we go. Leaders. And it is important to let them know that members of law enforcement are here to serve them, and we are concerned about their future and their welfare. Okay, that, I guess, in a way, that could be entirely innocent, and one should not try to read anything askew into that. The quote goes on: the Sheriff's Laws program is designed to allow me the opportunity to speak personally with students, our SROs, and school leadership in order to expand the relationship of law enforcement within the educational process. Well, I understand what that means, of course, but on the other hand, as someone who wants to live the life under the Constitution as much as possible, where freedom resides, right? Freedom and liberty are under the Constitution, not under the state. That bothers me a little bit. Does it bother you that there is to be an expanded relationship of law enforcement within the educational process? Well, okay, maybe so. Maybe it's all innocent. Deputy Eric Merkel, who heads the program for SROs, said that it will be a mutual learning experience, according to the Nooga.com story. The sheriff will learn about specific problems the school might be facing. And so he and his staff can make better informed decisions, the story says, while students will learn the history, purpose, and practices of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Okay, fine. The Sheriff's Office has a history that is much in our favor, by the way, as opposed to corporation law enforcement offices from towns and cities. Those are all constituted a little differently. They don't have a common law origin. They have much more a law enforcement origin than a peacekeeping origin. The Sheriff's Office generally is there to keep the peace and protect your property rights and your constitutional rights. Police departments, such as the one led by Chief Fred Fletcher in Chattanooga, is different in its concerns. It is concerned with law enforcement, primarily, and secondarily, the maintenance of your property rights and your personal rights and your constitutional rights. Those are all much further down the line of importance. The way our resource officers make and form relationships with the students is crucial for their job, Eric Merkel says. Our SROs function as mentors, counselors, and teachers, and of course, they perform the occasional law enforcement function in the school where they operate. Well, this is leadership. Okay, leadership is you as a student in a school learn to understand that the state is always there. The monitor is always there, making sure there's no crime, right? Making sure there's no crime. And we've seen numerous videos of school conflicts, right, between well-armed officers with their tasers and pistols and flighty students in arguments or not complying, not getting out of the way, who are thrown over or tased, what have you. We've seen those videos, and they are too numerous to mention. And somehow, when I think of put these pieces together, I'm thinking, well, leadership means to accept that. Leadership means that you accept that this is the way it is. We accept the relationship with the law enforcement. That bothers me. That bothers me that law enforcement has to be part of the educational process. It views its duty as that, and the school views its duty as making sure students always have the sentinel in mind. Where does a man learn about the Constitution in a circumstance like that? It probably would offend. If there was a class in a public school that taught what the constitutional rights are of a common citizen, that might offend the SRO. If he overheard what was going on in that class, telling you about all the rights you have and how to defend those rights and how to know what's on a warrant and the like, to know that you have a right to an indictment, let's say, in a criminal matter, those are that's kind of questionable. The SRO would, if he heard that passing down the hallway going on in a civics class, let's say, or a history class, that might be cause for concern. He might want to sit in the back row and listen to make sure that it was okay. You see what I'm saying? There's something here where we don't want to be supervised by the state. We don't want to be controlled by the state. But of course, the whole platform of this operation of the SROs is where? It's on state jurisdiction. So what is David Tulis complaining about? These students are all wards of the state anyway. Why is David Tulis, why are you, my listener, concerned about it, right? What do you care? It's these students already learn in the most important functions of life, in knowledge and learning and education. The state has control. They've already been told the state is surveyor, monitor, protector, and the provider of leadership. They already know that. So what's my beef, right? That you could ask that question. And if you ask that question to me, I would just shut my mouth. I'll shut my mouth and say, okay, we'll move on. We will simply change the subject because you are right. These are students in the state's custody. On the other hand, though you are accepting the free services of these teachers and that system, you don't lose your constitutional rights. Okay, they are still there, and yet somehow, because these rights are constantly being rubbed, right? They're constantly every day they're rubbed away a bit. Like water over decades can erode a rock to smooth off its harsh edges, make it a smooth, round, soft rock. Well, I think that's what happens, and that's what's been happening for decades in Tennessee, in Hamilton County, and in Chattanooga. The water of the state is constantly there, and all the sharp rocks, the sharp edges that would constitute leadership, that would constitute a distinct character of a man or a woman who grows up into manhood and womanhood. Those hard edges are gone, and so we're all kind of compliant. We're all fit together snugly. And the individual genius, the private narrative that individuals have are kind of corroded from view. They're not really there anymore. They're not distinct, and people are somewhat all alike. They're all made alike. That, of course, is policy. And the fact that we have illiteracy as policy makes that process all the easier. And you say, how could that possibly be? Well, how could it possibly be that illiteracy is public policy and not literacy? Well, it's kind of a multi-layered story. And all I can do here is just to suggest how those layers work and let you figure it out for yourself, right? You're my listener. I don't have to be bombastic with you. I'm going to let you figure out how these pieces work together. I'm just suggesting by little flashes of light, little flicking of my flashlight here and there. And as I flick about, I'll let you piece together in your mind the various parts of the room in which you're standing. You can see where the lamps are and the coffee table and the sofa. And there's a step, right? In the middle room, there's a step down. Okay. And then go a little further, there's a step up. And if I flick the light enough times, you can kind of gather out, okay, well, here's where I need to walk. I go around the coffee table, past the sofa, take the one step down, walk 5 steps, and then there's a step up, and then I'm out. Okay. That's all I can do. I'll let you figure it out, but you have to kind of put in mind all these pieces. Okay. You put in mind the pieces of the things I'm suggesting to you, the SROs, leadership, literacy. There is a bill before the General Assembly to make dyslexia a more recognized phenomenon, separating it somewhat from learning disabilities. And it does mention the statute by Pitts and House Bill 2616, and the Senate bill also has a number, would amend part of Title IV in Chapter 29, bringing dyslexia to the front and defining it somewhat better than it is now. Right now, the statute doesn't really give enough credence according to dyslexia as a problem, according to the backers of this issue, the dyslexia lobby. Right, they're they want more programs to fight dyslexia, and the state is only willing to go along with this story. Right, well, dyslexia is a grave problem, and we need to fight it. Learning disabilities are a serious problem, and we accept the pressure of groups such as Decoding Dyslexia TN, which has a WordPress blog, by the way, Decoding Dyslexia TN. And the goal here is entirely noble, right? We understand there's a problem. We want there to be an address of this problem. We'd like there to be support for this bill, the Say Dyslexia bill, right? Put it in the law. Dyslexia is so distinct as a problem, we're going to put it in the law. But dyslexia, as we're going to hear, is a learned condition. It is a form of pedagogical neurosis, if you will. In other words, it's a neurosis that you arrive at by being taught to be neurotic. It is something that is not natural to people. Dyslexia is not, as we are told by the state, it is not a neurobiological condition. No, it's not. It is something that is taught, and it's taught by the system itself through what's called the look, say, or the whole word method. And these are methods of teaching which compromise the essence of reading, right? They compromise the essence of reading. They pretend not to understand reading. And what the system does, what schools do around the state, systems, what they do is to conflate the two methods of teaching reading. The method that teaches reading among people who have ears to hear and who hear, and the method that might suit a person who's deaf, and that's called the look-say method, developed by Mr. Gallaudet back in the 1800s. Trying to find his name. Thomas Gallaudet. The School for the Deaf. This system has been understood to be a crippling device, and it's important that crippling device be widespread, and that people not learn how to read. That is a danger to the state itself. It is a danger to the modern democratic welfare system. We cannot have independent people. It is dangerous for you and for your son to know how to read, because guess what? Then you can read the law book. Then you can read the Constitution. Then you can read the statute. Then you can read the histories. Then you can read the Bible. And if you know how to read the Bible, well, that spells an end to modern tyrannies, because we don't know how to read, because we're afraid of reading, and we have functional illiteracy as a social problem, a cultural problem, one that is insurmountable. We have to continue to rely on the state and new programs. We have to have the governor and his wife, Chrissy, going about concerned about the literacy problem that we have. There is a solution. It's at least 40 years old, And in fact, I've got here in my studio at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the books that explain it. These are old books. I've looked at them before. They're well marked. They're kind of worn. They're a little shabby, right? The shabby volumes out of the David Tulis library it's got 5 or 6 books in it already. And we are going to try to figure out what to do. The answer is local economy in the free market. Yes, we can do it ourselves. We can say no to the state. We can say yes to private initiative, private leadership, right? Let's redefine leadership today. You and me at AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After this chilly start, more great-looking weather for your Friday. Lots of sunshine, warmer highs, lower 60s. Tonight, more clouds, milder lows, mid and upper 40s. For Saturday, lots of clouds, mainly dry highs, lower 60s. Some showers rolling in on Sunday. Check out Ace. Ace is the place for exactly what you need, starting with help. Only your neighborhood Ace has the local expertise combined with the best brands you need to help you maintain your home. That's Ace, the helpful place. And I'm 1412's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Are you prepared? Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? Now is the time to come to P5 Preparedness. We offer preparedness classes, supplies, and over 30 years of combined knowledge. P5 Preparedness, located on East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel. Look for the big Army truck. Call us at 423-602-2175. Do not wait. You need to get prepared today. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Get the skills and supplies you need or die waiting for help. P5 Preparedness.
Hello, I'm Mike Little, candidate for criminal court judge with 25 years of criminal court experience, which makes me the most qualified candidate. The experience I have gained from handling over 4,000 cases in state and federal court has equipped me with the ability to be fair, impartial, and independent. As your next criminal court judge, I will focus on keeping Hamilton County safe. I view this position as a public service and will strive to improve the daily operations of court. I humbly ask for your trust and vote in the March 1st Republican primary.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mike Little. Barry Abbott, Treasurer.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pam Huso. One day before the Nevada caucuses, Hillary Clinton finds herself 3 points behind Bernie Sanders in a new national Fox poll.
I talk about democratic socialism. What I mean is moving away from where we are right now.
Sanders at a town hall in Las Vegas on MSNBC. The Democratic race in Nevada is tightening. Republicans are watching what happens in South Carolina. The primary is tomorrow. Mourners, including President Obama, will file past the casket of a late Supreme Court justice.
Later this morning, the president will travel to the Supreme Court to pay tribute to Antonin Scalia, who will lie in repose in the Great Hall of the Supreme Court. The president, however, will not attend his funeral tomorrow, prompting criticism over the decision by Republicans and even some Democrats.
Fox's John Decker, Vice President Joe Biden will attend. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Horseplay gone wrong. That's how one Gatlinburg detective described the Ottawa rape incident, according to a Hamilton County School Board attorney. He said the detective, who is now under investigation by the TBI for his testimony in Hamilton County Juvenile Court, also said that the county school officials should take no steps to investigate because the juvenile judge in Sevier County had put down a gag order. That turned out, of course, to not be true. Attorney Bennett said he took him at his word and didn't ask for a copy of the gag order. The attorney said the detective also told him that there was no evidence that any Hamilton County school employee had done anything wrong. Later, Neil Pinkston took a very different view, bringing charges of failure to report against 2 Ottawa High coaches and an athletic director. And the Hamilton County School Board's decision on Superintendent Rick Smith will be decided on Monday, March the 7th at 5 o'clock p.m. He's requesting a buyout of $269,000, which represents about 35% of the remainder of his contract. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
We are brought to you by Superior Air Systems in the big orange vans around Hamilton County and Chattanooga. That's Superior Air Systems, taking care of your AC and heating unit on short notice as need be. Call 886-6602 for an appointment. Have the man come and rescue you. 886-6602. Make sure also that you get your Tennessee handgun permit class requirement if you're going to carry concealed under the state's authority at Carter Shooting Supply and Range. That's on Highway 58. That's Carter Shooting Supply and Range. There's a great subscription you can have all year at the range there, and have your children go, your wife go, and learn and practice your weaponry there. Also, of course, weapons on sale, all kinds of rifles and shotguns and handguns at Carter Shooting Supply. But I do want to mention the handgun permit class that you should take at Carter Shooting Supply, exercising your rights to be free, and remembering that an armed man is not a man who can be brought to absolute subjugation. He can be brought to subjugation by various means, by his consent, in equity, you might say, by application, but never absolutely, I would suggest, if he is armed. I've got on the phone Chris Butler. Chris Butler is an independent journalist in Tennessee. He's been doing reporting on stories for the past 13 years. He's 38 years old and is running TennesseeWatchdog.org. Now, we talked with Chris most recently when he was working for the Franklin Center, but in December, the Franklin Center cut its funding. It had a donor back out of major funding for that center in Nashville, and Franklin reduced staff, and Chris is now on his own, and he's working under a similar moniker as the one under which he worked with Franklin, and the domain now under Chris's supervision as editor is TennesseeWatchdog.org. Chris, what is tell my listener a little bit about a recent story you've published, and the headline starts "Bad Behavior." What's the bad behavior story about, and why should my listener read it on your platform?
Well, I believe you're referring to the story about the school superintendent.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, actually, that one hits a little close to home for you in terms of geography, because we're talking about, well, your listeners, I'm sure, are all too aware of the situation involving the former Cleveland City School Superintendent Martin Ringstaff, and that sort of tied into the story that I did last week. I looked at this situation, and I looked at the situation involving a man I wrote about around this time last year. His name is Jimmy Long, who is still the superintendent of the Humphreys County school system. Both of these men are affiliated in some way with the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents. In Jimmy Long's case, he is still the treasurer, and in Martin Ringstaff's case, I believe he was named one of that organization's school superintendents of the year. Well, everyone down there in your area knows about what Martin Ringstaff allegedly did and the circumstances leading to his departure from his position And in Jimmy Long's case, he was accused by one of his former employees of sexual harassment, graphic conversations at work, and embezzling taxpayer money on the job. Now, I decided to compare and contrast what was going on here with what was similar behavior when teachers are accused of similar behavior. It's been documented that more often than not, they're going to lose their teaching licenses or their teaching credentials from the state. So I decided to examine, what could happen to these men. We know Martin Ringstaff lost his job for this alleged behavior, but the same standards apply to teachers that apply. Do they apply the same standards to superintendents that they apply to teachers? And what I was able to gather and dig up, the answer is no. When I called the Board of Education to discuss these cases, they said, well, they'd never even heard of these two situations, even though in Ringstaff's case, it had been heavily documented all over the state. And Jimmy Long's alleged case had been documented on my website. And they said, well, we rely on the media.
Well, let me ask you a quick question.
Go ahead.
Chris, is the Tennessee Board of Education, is that a state body or is that an association of superintendents? Is that a
state body?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a state body, and they are the ones who grant the credentials for an educator's teaching licenses or some other state-issued education credentials.
All right, go ahead.
So, decided to compare and contrast what was going on. I found out the Board of Education does not really investigate superintendents to the same extent that they investigate teachers. And I said, look, you remove credentials from teachers, but you don't do it for superintendents. What if there's a situation where there's a superintendent who's well liked by the community and well liked by the board, but he's accused of similar behavior? Suppose there's a situation where the community looks the other way. If it's a superintendent, are you going to do anything? And they said, well, that's an interesting question you pose. We've never considered it. And they didn't really have much of an answer for me. So the thesis of the article was, could this happen to a school superintendent? And the answer is the standards are a little bit lower, and the standards are higher for a teacher. So that was an interesting bit of investigative journalism I did on TennesseeWatchdog.org.
And part of your data came from the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, the note in your story about the nearly 450 teachers who, since 2004, have lost their licenses, at least for a time, for some kind of miscreancy or, as you say, bad behavior.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard of these situations where there's a teacher somewhere and it's discovered that 20 or 25 years prior, they might have performed in an adult entertainment film, or maybe they said something on Facebook that was a little tawdry, and voila, here comes the State Board of Education to strip these people of their licenses. But if a school superintendent is alleged to be sending tawdry messages on Facebook while at work and discussing school business in these messages and lying to the board, it appears as though this individual is going to be able to keep his teaching license. And in the case of Jimmy Long in Humphreys County, no one knows for sure whether those allegations have any substance to them. But what is known is that the school system had to settle with the woman who filed the lawsuit, and no one really knows for sure what the settlement was, but surely it involved taxpayer money. So this is very much a matter of interest to the public. So this is something they need to concern themselves with.
Remind my listener where among the 95 counties in Tennessee, Humphreys County is, Chris Butler.
Humphreys County is, I would say it's about 90 miles to the west of Nashville.
Okay, and the Martin Ringstaff story, Chris Butler, pertains to text messages that were published, private text messages that were published between Martin Ringstaff and a female, and there was some sort of a sexually excited dialogue there between the two, and apparently the man who publicized this information was the woman's husband.
Okay, I didn't know the latest about where the Twitter account originated, but that's interesting to know.
Well, you've also written recently about TVA, and the story that you published at TennesseeWatchdog.org touches on the expense of TVA's coal policy. What in a nutshell is the coal policy that my listener needs to hear about in your reporting, Chris Butler?
Well, if you go to TennesseeWatchdog.org, you'll see a story I did last week about the TVA relying less and less on coal power and more on alternative energy like natural gas. The problem is alternative energy is expensive. Natural gas right now is inexpensive, but it's a volatile product, which means the price could rise or fall spontaneously at any given moment. And there was a press conference here in Nashville at the Capitol, an Alabama-based organization called Affordable Clean Energy, discussed how the TVA relying less on coal power is going to have an impact on electricity rates in Tennessee and how it will ultimately hurt Tennessee's economy. They stipulated that because of this policy, Tennessee will lose more than 65,000 jobs over the next 10 years, and people's electricity rates will jump 20%, and manufacturing output will decrease by $900 million, and there will be about a $700 million drop in tax revenue for state and local governments. And the people who are going to be most impacted by this affects your region where the Volkswagen plant is. They said that Tennessee's auto manufacturing plants are in the state. One of the reasons they're in the state is because of the low electricity rates. And of course, it takes a tremendous amount of electricity to operate an automobile manufacturing plant. And they stipulated that with higher electricity rates, the Volkswagen, or up here in Nashville, Nissan or General Motors might have second thoughts about doing business in Tennessee, and they may want to relocate to another area. I mean, you saw on the news just last week, there was an air conditioning manufacturer up in Indiana, and they decided they're going to relocate to Mexico because the cost of business in Indiana is just too darned expensive. So the very same thing could happen in Tennessee if electricity rates skyrocket and these businesses decide that the cost of doing business in Tennessee is just not worth their bottom line.
This is David Tulis. Thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're the station that covers local economy and the free markets. And our slogan here from 9 to 11 every weekday morning is love your neighbor, buy local. We have the whimsical and wonderfully weak argument that near is better than far and small is better than big and simple than complex. And we like footnotes in 6-point type and down in the small part of the bottom of the page where the fleas fight with scimitar and javelin. We've got personal is better than corporate and physical than abstract. And altogether, these arguments make up the whole concept of Nooganomics. Nooganomics, which is lococentric, nougacentric. We could say lococentric if you're from another place. We do welcome you here to town as you're passing through. Your town-centric thinking is what we're trying to understand. We're trying to think more like common people, more like agrarian people, more like people with a connection to agriculture than simply city folk, which is what we are. We condemn ourselves with our own description. There are city folks, cosmopolites. That's you and me. We're very cultivated, right? We're very civilized, and yet we are somehow more savage than we realize. Chris Butler is an independent journalist. He's a bachelor, 38 years old, been 13 years as a journalist and reporter, and now he's really on his own. He had been quasi on his own as he was a writer for the Franklin Center in Nashville, but the Franklin Center has cut staff, and Chris has funds to run for a time. Tell us a little bit about your operation, Chris, as an independent. You were in the nonprofit journalism sector. You're still half in that sector and sort of half out of it. Describe how you, as a kind of taxpayer watchdog in Tennessee, hope to make a go of it as a writer. How do you intend to be sustainable in your journalism operations, Chris?
Well, the content that I plan on doing is really no different than my mission when I was working for Franklin. And when I think in Franklin's case, I'm a nonprofit, and we were relying on donations from a lot of people out of state because it was part of a national outfit. And the donations from individuals in Tennessee weren't particularly, they were always welcome, but they weren't a crucial part of, the budget we were working on. But now that I am on my own, independent of Franklin or anybody else, I will be relying more and more on local donations from individuals in Tennessee for TennesseeWatchdog.org. And the website itself, we just set it up last week. I hired a friend of mine in Louisiana to help me build it, and he did a wonderful job. His name is Rex Moncrief, and the website is still going through a few glitches, and we've just added a contribute page with instructions on what to do. We're probably going to have something at the very bottom on TennesseeWatchdog.org with, people. If you want to pay through credit card, MasterCard, Visa, whatever you have, we'll have that feature. But right now, as it stands, if you want to contribute, I have my email address on the website, and you can reach out to me. And that anything that anyone can contribute. If you like the work I'm doing, if you believe in holding government accountable and investigating waste, fraud, and abuse, and I certainly have a proven track record of accomplishments and making that happen, then please, any and all contributions are certainly welcome on TennesseeWatchdog.org.
Chris Butler is an independent journalist. As we said, this is David Tulis, and you face a difficult future, as I do. I'm a writer. Chris, I write Nooganomics.com, and it's very difficult to get anyone to pay attention. And that's because on the internet, people expect everything virtually to be free. And so what you have to do is you rely on people who effectively give you the money. They say, I like what you're doing, and here are $50, and I'll give you $50 next year. If you have enough people doing that at small amounts, like maybe $20 a year, even $10 a year, if you have enough people who say what Chris Butler is doing is worthwhile, I will send him some money by PayPal or a debit card or credit card. But the problem is, though, there are not enough of those people possibly to make your operation sustainable. Is there a profit side to your model that you can see yet? I mean, where are you in looking for the profit side as opposed to just the nonprofit take the donation side of your enterprise?
Well, I tell you what, this is a brand new endeavor. This is a brand new experience for me, and I'm sure there are going to be some very valuable lessons for me to learn. I'm very hopeful that beyond the next 6 months, I'll be able to continue going. To help sustain TennesseeWatchdog.org, I'm going to have to rely on people like yourself who have a certain level of expertise and experience in these matters. And I'm very optimistic that the work I'm doing will be sustainable enough, and will get enough of an audience, and will capture donors' attention that I'll be able to keep going. I mean, my philosophy is it's all in God's hands, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic that I'm doing good work. And right now, I'm just focusing on my writing and the fundraising and the donor aspect of it. Like I said, it's going to be an experience, and I'm going to learn a few things, but I'm adaptable, and I just have a lot of optimism that things are going to work out.
What you want, Chris Butler, is that if people like you, let's say on a Facebook page, that they like you also with a subscription, which is to say not just that they get in their email your every report, but they follow what you do and they support what you do by making a donation of appreciation. And so it's a very difficult task that you face. You have fundraising, which again is donations, as you did in the nonprofit work for Franklin Center. But then also you want people to say, okay, I'm worth this, and let me help you find this out. So maybe there could be people in a given town who have the poop, perhaps, on a county government or some company perhaps that's doing something outside the law in that town that would have, and the reporting about which would create statewide interest. And so you have to kind of you have to find donations, but you also want to be paid for your worth by some of your money being in exchange? Is it where the people are either advertising with you or subscribing to you for motives beyond just charitable motives?
Yeah, well, we have TennesseeWatchdog.org has a Facebook page. Just go to the Facebook search engine, type in Tennessee Watchdog. It ought to be the first thing that shows up. Press the like button, and I don't quite know what the rules are on because we're trying to be a 501c3, and I don't quite know what the rules are on that. I'm going to find out, but I believe we'll be allowed to solicit donations from people through the Facebook page and possibly the Twitter page, and there are other avenues and other vehicles for us to put our name out there and to get attention and hopefully churn out some really good journalism and make an impact. And as I said, I'm the guy who broke the Tennessee logo story last year, and that was the situation where the state paid something like $50,000 for what everyone agreed was a very crudely designed logo for all the state buildings and all the state, stationery. It's just the letters TN in Times New Roman font with a red background, which is, anyone with a computer could recreate that in less than 2 or 3 minutes. So I gained a substantial amount of national attention for that. And I believe that the people of Tennessee are on board with Tennessee Watchdog's mission of investigating waste, fraud, and abuse in government. And I believe that the donor base is certainly there to help keep me going, and I believe that my work has been appreciated for the past 5.5 years or so I've been here in Nashville.
Well, Chris Butler, thanks so much for joining us here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This is David Tulis. I've got some things I want you to hear.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd, right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm going to Carter Shooting Supply.
Carter Shooting Supply.
That's right, Carter Shooting Supply. They're having a great sale on all of their guns right now, and it's name brands like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Springfield, their AR-15s. They've got the hottest gun in the land right now, the Sky 9mm. Man, it comes in all the cool colors. If you're an Alabama fan, they've got crimson. If you're a big orange fan, they've got an orange one. All the women are loving the pink one and Tiffany blue. Plus, it has a lifetime warranty replacement. If the gun is stolen, all you need is your police report or receipt, and they'll replace it free. It has a 60-day full money-back guarantee. That's Carter Shooting Supply. They're in Harrison right there at 6210 Highway 58.
Are they online?
Yes, they are. That's CarterShootingSupply.com, or give them a call, 423-344-1099. Now, this sale's not going to last too long, so you need to hurry up and get there. And they do have a great indoor shooting facility. You can get your Tennessee handgun carry permit also. That's Carter Shooting Supply, 423-344-1099.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at sabrinarealty.com.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Nooganomics.com is a slap of fresh air, a 2x4 across the brain every morning. Read Nooganomics.com to find out what's happening in Chattanooga. Local-centric, Nooga-centric. Read it. The man who matters does. You should too. Nooganomics.com.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
More businesses are facing problems and penalties for not complying with IRS rules. Business owners must file Form 1099 on or before February 28. Need assistance? E.J. Pelton CPA will help. If you need 1099 help, call E.J. Pelton Company at 332-3339. He will file those 1099s for you and keep the government off your back. E.J. Pelton Company on Brainerd Road near the Belvoir Light and in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike north of Food City. Call 332-3339.
I wonder who's watching me now. The IRS.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention Hot News Talk Radio. If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention Hot News Talk Radio. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention Hot News Talk Radio. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention Hot News Talk Radio. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention
Hot News Talk Radio. Yeah.
No.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. At the Supreme Court a short time ago,
in your wisdom, you have called your servant Antonin out of this world.
the Reverend Paul Scalia offered a prayer over the casket bearing the body of his father, Justice Antonin Scalia. The court is holding a day of tribute before Scalia is laid to rest tomorrow. CBS's Pam Coulter surveyed the somber scene.
Justice Scalia's casket was carried up the marble steps of the Supreme Court by members of the court's police force. Some of Scalia's former law clerks walked alongside the casket as honorary pallbearers. Others lined the steps going up to the court. After a private ceremony, the clerks will take turns standing vigil by the casket as Scalia lies in repose in the Great Hall.
American warplanes attacked an ISIS recruiting camp in Libya overnight. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti is following the story from London.
According to U.S. officials, the airstrikes targeted a senior Tunisian operative linked to ISIS attacks in Tunisia last year. At this point, it's still unclear whether the operative, Noureddin Shushani, was among those killed.
CBS News national security correspondent David Martin tells us today's attacks were not the start of a sustained effort in Libya.
The U.S. has been looking now for many weeks at starting an air campaign in Libya, but has been waiting for a Libyan government to be formed so that they can request the help of the United States. That has not happened yet.
Will Donald Trump's harsh words to the Pope come back to haunt him in tomorrow's South Carolina presidential primary? CBS News political director John Dickerson doubts that will be the case.
There aren't a lot of Catholics in South Carolina. There are even fewer in the Republican primary process. This Pope is not popular among Republican voters. Here, Donald Trump is being attacked on an issue where a majority of Republican voters are with him on the idea of building a big, strong wall.
The Pope called Trump not Christian for wanting to keep immigrants out of the country. But a short time ago, a papal spokesman said the Pope's comments should not be seen as a personal attack on Trump. For the Democratic presidential candidates, Nevada is the next big battleground.
A few months ago, no one expected tomorrow's caucus here would be much of a battle, but now suddenly it is. And what looked a while back to be an easy win for Hillary Clinton could be up for grabs. Some public opinion polls show Clinton neck and neck with Bernie Sanders.
CBS News correspondent Steve Futterman. CBS's Peter King tells us Virgin Galactic is ready to roll out a new version of its space tourism rocket.
The original Spaceship Two was destroyed in an accident nearly a year and a half ago, killing one pilot, setting back the Virgin Galactic effort. CEO Richard Branson.
Space is difficult. We're trying to do things here that nobody else has managed to achieve.
An investigation found human error caused the crash. Spaceship Two will carry 2 crew members and up to 6 passengers on high-speed suborbital flights, basically up and down. There's no timetable for commercial flights.
In early trading, the Dow is down 115 points. This is CBS News.
Results may vary.
Hello, I'm Jerry Mathers. I was the beaver in Leave It to Beaver. And 20 years ago, I almost died from type 2 diabetes. When I was diagnosed with type 2, I was shocked. My blood sugar was through the roof. Now, the very same natural remedies I use to control my type 2 diabetes are available for you in a super easy program called the Diabetes Solution Kit. And I should know it works. I use the very same techniques to drop 40 pounds of fat, get my blood sugar under control, and watch my type 2 diabetes fade into thin air. If you have diabetes, I urge you to try this step-by-step plan. It has all the natural techniques I used, and it works a lot faster, too. I'm Jerry Mathers. And if I can do it, you can do it too.
If you'd like to normalize your blood sugar and stop taking your diabetes medication completely with your doctor's approval, go to bloodsugar99.com. That's bloodsugar99.com. Reverse your diabetes in as little as 30 days by going to bloodsugar99.com. That's bloodsugar99.com now.
A marriage license bill one critic has called separate but unequal has cleared one house of the Kentucky legislature. CBS News correspondent Jim Crisula.
Kentucky state senators have approved a bill that creates different marriage license forms for gay and straight couples. It also removes the names of county clerks from the forms. The measure is in response to County Clerk Kim Davis's refusal to issue marriage certificates to same-sex couples, since the licenses included her name and signature. She refused to do that because of her religious beliefs and was jailed for 5 days for ignoring a federal court order. Jim Crisula, CBS News.
The Postal Service has apologized for the blood-stained mail that was dropped off along a route in Olean, New York, a city of 14,000, about 60 miles from Buffalo. The spokeswoman says the blood was from a letter carrier who cut his finger adjusting the mirror on his delivery truck after a minor accident. She says he didn't realize his blood was smudging the mail. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
News Talk 1240.
After this chilly start, expect more great-looking weather for your Friday. Lots of sunshine, warmer highs, lower 60s. Tonight, more clouds, milder lows, mid and upper 40s. For Saturday, lots of clouds, mainly dry highs, lower 60s. Some showers rolling in on Sunday. Check out Ace. Ace is the place for exactly what you need, starting with help. Only your neighborhood Ace has the local expertise combined with the best brands you need to help you maintain your home. That's Ace, the helpful place. And I'm Gene 12's Chief Meteorologist, Patrick Core. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
I've just received in the mail the second book that I'm going to be reading from one of my favorite authors. His name is Charles Hugh Smith, and the title is A Radically Beneficial World, Automation, Technology, and Creating Jobs for All. He is an uber free market defender and a source of genius for anyone who cares about local economy and the free market. And we are looking here in our station at the other side of the crisis. This is a financial crisis that will, as I like to suggest, reduce your net worth by half. You, my listener, since you're going to just sit and listen with some excitement to my line of argument, but not do anything, you are going to lose half of your net worth, maybe more. And if you're a dependent on the state, when the lights go out among the good people in Washington, you will be even damaged even more than that, I would like to suggest. Now, I'm not making any hard and fast predictions, and I'm not a prophet, so take these suggestions lightly, if you will. But Smith is a very good author, and I have not even peeked into this volume that came in the mail yesterday. I'm very excited to read more about that. The prospect of a decentralized, distributed economic and political order. I know that sounds terribly boring, but distributed is, in fact, the marketplace. The marketplace is there. It's distributed. When you have a political economy, as we have today, you have centralization and a non-distributed economy. You have economic systems. You have marketplaces that are controlled by fiefs, by cartels, by monopolies, and often in disregard of constitutional provisions. We here in Tennessee have it illegal to have any monopoly or cartel. And yet the state is the operator of a multitude of cartels and monopolies, a multitude, the most valuable of which, the biggest of which, is bigger and worth more than the state itself. And that, of course, is the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, the TCRS, worth about $50 billion in liquid capital. The state down there in the 30s somewhere. Well, this is David Tulis, and we want to talk now with Dr. Dwight Mayberry. Dr. Mayberry is the founder of Mayberry After School Learning Center. He is a supporter of public education. He spent 20 years in public education. The last stint was as superintendent of schools in District 269. District 269 in northern Illinois, in which there were two schools, and then at the end of his departure, there was a consolidation into one set of buildings. Right, Dr. Mayberry. Well, tell my listener what you're doing, why you've moved to Tennessee. You've been here now you're in the second year of operation of this after school learning center. What is the problem that you're trying to fix with this little nonprofit organization?
Well, David, last 5 years, I always came down here to Chattanooga for Christmas and for around the 4th of July to visit my grandkids. And I noticed they are not reading well. Matter of fact, they're really not reading. So when I moved down a year and a half ago, my grandsons, I had them Monday and Tuesday after school, and we'd work for a couple hours on reading and math because they weren't even on first grade level, and yet they were being told they were. But we worked on that, their reading. We also exposed it to math. And then the next thing, my neighbor was asking, I've got a grandchild. Would you help that grandchild? And then another person asked, another person. Then
hold on, you're going too fast for my listener. Hold on, Dr. Mayberry. You are 72 years old, and now when did the story you're telling us? How old were you when that began?
71.
Okay, so this was last year. Well, tell us about the first party that asked you to help with that family's children. What was the situation? What was the relationship you had with those people? Give us some detail.
Well, they were neighbors, and matter of fact, she was an English teacher, retired English teacher, and she was very upset with what's happening with her granddaughter. And we talked, and then another person came. Then some people at the church, Seventh-day Adventist Church on Nixon Pike, they said, we used to have a school here, and that closed in 2004. and there are some rooms there. You could have a room. And they said, we'll fix it up. You can have it used rent-free, utilities-free. So I started a year ago, this last January, in one classroom, and with about 3 assistants. We're all volunteers. This is our second year we're in operation, and we have 25. That's where my cutoff is. I have turned down over 50 children that have applied for various reasons, but we have 25 right now, and I have 6 additional volunteers helping me.
When do your classes meet?
We meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days a week from 3:30 to 5:30. We're after school. That's why it's called the after school program. I chose to use my name. I wasn't going to, but you know, the name Mayberry in Carolina is a home name. And you might know my relatives, Aunt B, Opie, not really, but anyway. So I decided, well, hey, that's a kind of a comfy zone for people.
Yeah, Mayberry is not a vanity, you're suggesting. Mayberry tells something about the past. It tells something about nostalgia, maybe the way things were when things were plainer and more open and maybe freer.
More basic, more down to earth, yes. And that's what our program's about. Only reading, only math. And I have visited over 6 schools, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention any schools, and I'm not going to mention any teachers in that. There are some good things in the Hamilton County schools, but one thing that's not happening is they're not teaching reading. I think they pulled the plug on phonics. I think they pulled the plug on a good basal reading program. We use the SRA reading series. It stands for Science Research Associates. And it's a well-developed, it's been out there. Some of your listeners may remember when they were in grade school 20, 30, 40 years ago. They may have used the SRA, their kits, and they have short stories with a lot of questions dealing with vocabulary, dealing with prefixes, suffixes, a lot of word meanings, and they keep progressing. And I've been told by so many, well, those are old, they're no longer any good.
When you said keep progressing, I almost misheard you to say to keep guessing. Now, guessing is what is sort of required in the modern look-say and whole word method, where precision of words and the acquisition of longer words are really rendered impossible because of the look-say method's emphasis on words as pictures. You teach phonics. In a nutshell, how does phonics succeed in teaching a child to read, Dr. Mayberry?
I'm not sure we teach phonics like I would in a regular classroom structure, because we're taking children that are already behind and we're trying to get them caught up, and eventually we hope that they'll be ahead. Our reading program begins with about kindergarten.
This is David Tulis, and caller, you're live on the air with Dr. Dwight Mayberry here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. What's your question?
I'm 58 years old. I come from a suburban school system outside of Philadelphia that was very wealthy, but I'm angry at all of you so-called educators. I have to go on. I'm going to ask a question. When I was in 7th grade, I noticed that your whole system is fraudulent. By using socialism as a means of brainwashing children, and there's a lot of facts that support this. I'm going to ask you a question after I make this statement, though.
Yeah, make it a question.
I suggested that we have free enterprise schools. I mean, I can choose where to get my hair cut, where to eat, but I can't choose where to educate my children. Now my 9-year-old comes home with spelling errors, and the teacher says, "Oh, we're not concerned about errors. We're concerned about the concept and the context." And the way they're teaching math with Common Core, the system should be shut down and every educator arrested for fraud. Yeah, I mean, how in the world can we have a system now 100 years old and kids don't know how to read? This is absurd. It's absurd.
All right, what's your comment, Dr. Mayberry, about this?
Well, this is how we take and do our reading. When they read a short story and they answer the questions, when they have completed the section, either one of my associates or myself will sit down, we score it with them, and then we go back to each question that they missed. That's where the importance of the reading program is, because we want them to understand why they got it wrong and what the correct answer is. So we work on their learning. Well, I don't care if it's math or whether it's reading. That's the thing. When they do a math worksheet for us, we circle the wrong answers. We're not filling checks all over, but we go back then and we redo the problem with them so they learn.
Well, explain to my listener, Dr. Mayberry, Dwight Mayberry, why phonics works. What is it in phonics that makes it work? What is it in the state's system of education and training that doesn't work?
If you have a good phonics program, a first grader can look at, for the first time, he might see the word weekend. If they have a good phonics program, they can learn and sound it out on their own and say weekend and be successful at it. They can, Nooganomics, they could take that word, if it's a good phonics program, they will be able to solve and pronounce it. And then they can also pick up some knowledge because they've learned prefixes, they've learned suffixes, and they start putting this together. What we're trying to do, which is a problem with education, we're trying to get the children to be thinkers, not reflectors of other people's thoughts. We want their little, you'd be amazed. The other day, when we get done early, I had a first grader playing one of my volunteers in chess. And for a first grader, man, to play chess, you really have to think. And that's what we're trying to do. We want them to understand, okay, here was the question. This is what you answered. Let's talk about this question a little bit.
Well, Dr. Mayberry, when you say the ultimate goal is to help your student to think, that's something that's really not in view of what you're doing in an after-school learning program. What you're trying to do is getting the basics down, which is reading itself, right? If you don't have reading itself down, and you can't make something out of a word, let's say automation or beneficial, the two somewhat medium length words. If you can't use those words and understand them and hear them, you can't use them, right? And therefore your thought is blocked at every point where those words come up, or they need to come up.
Yes, we are going through. We have to get the basics across to the students, like in math. If they don't have the math facts down, they don't understand that opposite of addition is subtraction, opposite of division is multiplication. If they don't have these concepts down, we have to work on them, and we will until they have their addition, multiplication, all their facts. They've got to have that. But then we can take and we spend time with that. Then we can start advancing into powers, exponents, and things like this. And
so it sounds like you might be taking students at Mayberry After School Learning Center that are seniors in high school. Is that true, or these are all just younger children?
We only take them 1 through 8 because there is the focus is on first grade, second grade, third grade, and on up. If Hamilton County schools, like other districts, that focus on their primary grades, they will notice a major impact in their middle schools and high schools, because we're getting too many students that are slipping through. They can't read. And if you can't read, you will not be completely successful in mathematics, because we have word problems. You're not going to understand social studies, and you're missing out. You've got to have the reading skills.
Well, in a nutshell, Dr. Mayberry, what is the main point, the main fact, if you will, in mathematics that students need to get? What do they need to have, or what curriculum do they need to have, and what are they getting instead in the public sector?
Well, I'm not sure what they're getting in the public sector here. I can tell you when I was superintendent just 3 years ago, we used the Holt Reinhardt Winston series. It was a basic program, and we tested our students. And I know testing is a big thing, but we only tested twice a year. We tested in the fall, the third week of school, to find out where the student's ability was. We tested in the spring, 3 weeks before school is out, to see how much progress that child had made. And you can overdo testing, but most of them test and test and test for their own benefit. Testing needs to be for the benefit of the student, so you know where he's having the problems and then you work and focus in on that.
Well, the story we've been hearing in Chattanooga, Dr. Mayberry, is that testing is really for the benefit of the system. So the system can monitor the student's progress and apply resources to the student body more astutely, apparently.
Well, I would challenge that because I don't think the system's using their information. They have a major problem here in reading. And if you have a major problem, you better start addressing it. I'd see that SRA reading labs. Number one, I'd bring in those for grades K1 and 2 at least to start off. And I'd do a training program for the K1, 2 teachers, how to use them. It's an individualized program. If you have 20, well, let's say if you got first graders, you only have about 15, 18. If you have 18 first graders, you got 18 individual different children, and you need to address at their level. And that's why we use SRA reading labs in cooperation with it, because it's an individualized program. You've got to come across, yes, teach some of the basics to the whole group, but don't teach to the bottom student. Teach to your top students and bring your bottom on up. That's where the teacher is most effective, not with the smart children are going to learn in spite of teachers. It's the bottom, the lower ones that are struggling. They learn because of teachers.
Later today, make sure you go to Nooganomics.com and also possibly EastridgeNewsOnline.com, which will be posting an essay from me on this topic. And I'm going to have for your interest at Nooganomics.com a cover of the book my children, my wife and I used to teach our children how to read. It is a phonics book. And it's has no pictures. It's not very exciting, but with it, you, my listener, can teach your recalcitrant student and a school system using a volume like that, or even using a system such as Science Reading Associates Labs that Dr. Mayberry uses. These are remedies for a serious problem. We are brought to you by Eric Pelton, the numbers guy. The accountant who does tax returns for those liable thereto. He's a CPA. He's been at it for nearly 40 years. Eric Pelton has. His website is ejpelton.com, and the number in Brainerd is 622-3156. That's 622-3156. He's got an advertisement on our station about 1099s. That's something you need to consider at the moment. Also, if you have a screen repair that needs to be done on your cell phone or your device, make sure you go to Cell Surgeon and ask for the $10 off for that. That will tell Anthony or Adam that you are my listener here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station for the man who matters, run here on this show by the website for the man who matters, Nooganomics.com. We're talking with Dr. Dwight Mayberry, who runs an after-school program, a nonprofit charity, a 501c3 here in Hickson. It's called Mayberry After School Learning Center. He's a former superintendent in Illinois, from Illinois, I should say, excuse me. Right? No, there's no S. You don't hear the S. And he's got 25 children tucked away for after-school lessons. It's at 6424 Hickson Pike. It's in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He is an Adventist, and the church is offering its facility for him, though only 4 of his 25 children happen to go to that particular place of worship. And he deals with students in the 1st through the 8th grade. Well, what is there something you recommend for parents just quickly, Dr. Mayberry?
Number one, pay attention to your children. Take Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Spend a half hour each one of those 5 nights with your children. Read to them, have them read to you, talk to them. If your child is struggling, and Tennessee is low in the nation, Chattanooga is low in Tennessee, get some help out there. And we're here to try and help as much as we possibly can. I've been asked 3 different times if I would start a branch over in other places. And the thought is there, but right now we're just focusing on making what we're doing here in Hickson as successful as possible. And our students are succeeding. They're doing great. We have a little motto: good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. We try to, I don't care what ability the student is on, we try to get them to think that Excellent means 100%. And we put work on their level so they get 100%. And they mark it on their sheet. Excellent. They do the marking. And they take the pride in it.
Well, that's very grandfatherly approach. Dr. Mayberry has 2 grown children and 3 grandchildren, and he got involved in this free market sector work, looking at his grandchildren here in the Chattanooga area who were needing help in reading. And perhaps the best thing we can recommend here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is to read with your children, read to them, have them read to you. If you have family, well, I know you're not a Christian, but your Christian friends who have family worship when they read the Bible and pray together every day, the child can practice the reading for the family, and then when the time comes for, instead of dad reading the Word of God, have the boy or the girl read it. That's her demonstration for the day after her work on those passages. This is David Tulis, and I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. America, born to freedom. The Liberty Revolution is on. Liberty Works Radio Network.
There's a reason education's because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. It's the big, wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they get by a system that threw them overboard. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After this chilly start, expect more great-looking weather for your Friday. Lots of sunshine, warmer highs, lower 60s. Tonight, more clouds, milder lows, mid and upper 40s. For Saturday, lots of clouds, mainly dry highs, lower 60s. Some showers rolling in on Sunday. Check out Ace. Ace is the place for exactly what you need, starting with help. Only your neighborhood Ace has the local expertise combined with the best brands you need to help you maintain your home. That's Ace, the helpful place. And I'm Gene 12's Chief Meteorologist, Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pam Puso. With one day to go before South Carolina's Republican primary, John Kasich is paying no mind to the latest Fox News poll that has him in last place.
Conservative principles, conservative ideas, get the economy going, and let's make sure that everybody has a shot.
The Ohio governor on Fox and Friends. In Nevada,
how many of you already know where your caucus site is?
Hillary Clinton rallying supporters ahead of tomorrow's Democratic caucuses. Arriving at the Supreme Court, the body of late Justice Antonin Scalia, he'll lay in repose. U.S. airstrikes target an ISIS terrorist in Libya.
A senior U.S. official confirming to Fox News U.S. warplanes carried out an airstrike in western Libya, aiming at a training camp. The strike was meant for Noureddin Chouchain, who is linked to 2 attacks on tourists in Tunisia.
Fox's Jessica Gallagher. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Horseplay gone wrong. That's how one Gatlinburg detective described the Ottawa rape incident, according to a Hamilton County School Board attorney. He said the detective, who is now under investigation by the TBI for his testimony in Hamilton County Juvenile Court, also said that the county school officials should take no steps to investigate because the juvenile judge in Sevier County had put down a gag order. That turned out, of course, to not be true. Attorney Bennett said he took him at his word and didn't ask for a copy of the gag order. The attorney said the detective also told him that there was no evidence that any Hamilton County school employee had done anything wrong. Later, Neil Pinkston took a very different view, bringing charges of failure to report against 2 Ottawa High coaches and an athletic director. And the Hamilton County School Board's decision on Superintendent Rick Smith will be decided on Monday, March the 7th at 5 o'clock p.m. He's requesting a buyout of $269,000, which represents about 35% of the remainder of his contract. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
This is not good.
This is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time. If you need to go into business but don't have your own idea for what your business should look like, well, buy into somebody else's plan. And you do that by engaging Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source. He is the man to get you into a franchise. He has the means whereby you can obtain $150,000 in capital for your business, paying yourself during the startup phase. And that's only through Entrepreneur Source, the know-how place for the man who is going to business, who's going to have a plan B. You need a plan B. Call Bruce Krebs. Get on his calendar now. 875-5621. That's 875-5621. Bruce Krebs, call him now. You have heard me long enough. You don't need to be dithering on the point of a plan B. Make sure also that you want to be prepared for the coming crises, plural, notice, that you go to P5 Preparedness, the shop on East Brainerd Road. Duke Newcomb, who has our preparedness show every Thursday, is there. He also runs classes. There are many classes on preparation for parlous times, as we could call them, ahead. And that is at P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd Road. Do go there and make sure you know that if you have a cell phone problem on your screen, you get $10 off on a screen repair at Cell Surgeon, which is right next to Old Chicago's Pizza in Northgate Mall. The number is 668-0100, 668-0100, open Sunday. And that's $10 off. Just ask for the $10 off and say that you are a fan of our radio station, the one that covers local economy and the free markets. We are the station for Keon Rose, for Sean Hannity, for Colin Cowherd, and most days at 11, Binary with Russell the Kid, how to make use of your intelligent device, the gigantic capacity your smartphone has. You use 2% of it. Well, learn how to use 4%, all right? And that's you do that by listening to Russell here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station that makes you a man of resources in many areas. Do you know that the public school system is not about creating a free people? It is, in fact, all about creating a subjected people, a people who are subject. And we know that this is true because the history of public education is monumental, and much is published. For example, in 1908, a noted humanist named G. Stanley Hall said that illiteracy has many benefits, and among them is this: the knowledge which illiterates acquires probably on the whole more personal, direct, environmental, and probably much a much larger proportion of it practical. Okay, so if you're illiterate, your knowledge is practical. And moreover, they escape much eye strain and mental excitement. Being illiterate and many other things being equal are probably more active and less sedentary. And he points out that illiterates escape certain temptations such as vacuous and vicious reading. You really can't be involved in that now, can you? Perhaps we are prone, he says, to put too high a value both upon the ability required to attain this art and the discipline involved in doing so. Another one of our great ones, Roy writes in a book that earlier psychology regarded mind as a purely individual affair in direct and naked contact with the external world, right? Got that? At present, the tendency is to conceive individual mind as a function of social life, as not capable of operating or developing by itself, but as requiring continual stimulus from social agencies and finding its nutrition in social supplies. Those are all euphemisms, and you can figure out what they are euphemisms for. But I would suggest that they are euphemisms for the modern progressive welfare, democratic and Republican-oriented state that surrounds us and provides us at every turn free this and free that, and helps at every turn, helps for the family and other such pious entities as that. And we are somewhat skeptical of these claims, and we really don't want to be treated as the behaviorists would like to see us. They've seen us this way for the past 100 years, right? So it's really nothing new to say it, but we are a little tired of being subjects, and we would like to be more free and more prosperous here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. One little body that's working in this direction toward the liberation of the illiterate or the functionally illiterate person is Dr. Dwight Mayberry. He runs here in Hickson Mayberry After School Learning Center. He is a former superintendent of District 269 in Northern Illinois that started off with 2 schools and I think now has one school. Dr. Mayberry is a supporter of public education. He is an Adventist, and his after-school setup serves 1st through 8th graders in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and a couple of classrooms there at 6424 Hickson Pike. Well, Dr. Mayberry, what is your reason for this after-school operation? What is the damage you're trying to fix?
It started with my grandchildren, David. First of all, I was coming down here twice a year, Christmas and around the 4th of July, and visit my daughter and her children. And we found out that as I listened, they can't read. They're not getting the skills. They're not being taught the skills in school that they should be having. So I have them now in the 2nd and 3rd grade, and for the last couple of years, they've been missing out. So I started working with them when I moved down here about 2 years ago. Well, it'll be 2 years ago this coming summer. And every Monday and Tuesday after school, I work with them on their reading and their mathematics. And then another person asked me, would you help work with mine? And then another one. Then some people at church said, you could use one of our classrooms. It's sat in there.
Well, let me throw at you the question that comes from the perspective of the state. Why is reading so important? Are you not overvaluing reading? Are there not many advantages to being functionally illiterate? Are there not? I'm asking you that in all seriousness.
There is, because you can live downtown Chattanooga and get all the free benefits of living under the bridge, hand out this and hand out that. I've helped with some programs for meals, giving meals here and doing that. But those people are not finding out what real life is like. Life is fun. It's an enjoyment. And school is fun. The more you, as I visit classrooms and things like that, I can tell whether there's happy things going on. Are the students' work, positive work, on display in the classroom? Are they enjoying being in the classroom? We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30. We have various numbers when they can come of students, but we have about 25 right now that are coming on a regular basis. And school is fun. It's fun for the adults. It's fun for the children because they're learning. They're being very successful. And when they're struggling and they have problems, those are challenges for us to overcome. And we deal with the problems and we get them to understand that. And they are so excited about it.
Well, at worst, if you're functionally illiterate or illiterate, you live under a bridge and are waiting handouts and you're waiting for the free dinner. But not so dramatically. If you are functionally illiterate, you are dependent in other ways, maybe not quite as stark. Maybe you don't have as smelly clothes as the person under the bridge, but you still are dependent in other ways. And you're suggesting that it would be that you are awaiting the ministries of the state in many areas. You are awaiting handouts. You are in fact dependent upon other people, right? If you're not literate.
And that's a community problem. I think it's a problem that the Chamber of Commerce and other people need to address here. And I know they say, hey, our high schools are not providing the people with the proper education to take over some of the jobs we hear. So we have to hire from other parts from the country. Hey, our high schools here need to have career programs involved into the education system. So when they finish 12th grade, they can slide right into some of these very successful jobs. And we don't have to bring in from South America, the West Coast, or the North. Our students here in Chattanooga have as many brains as any place else. They are good young people. We need to address and help them become successful. Our motto is good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. And that's why we get our children, first graders. We want them to strive for excellence, 100%. And they do.
And that's because you, Dr. Mayberry, as a Christian, you value, as Christianity requires, you value each individual, and you think that each individual is called by God. He's made in God's image. He's called by God to accomplish certain important things here on the earth, and that he needs to be equipped to do so. And reading is the way of acquiring skills, right? If you read, you can acquire any skill very likely in pretty short order, right? You just have to intensely read and study in a particular area, make some personal contacts, and then you've absorbed a new means of doing business or serving other people.
Well, you take math, because next to reading is math. One of the key problems that children are having today when they get in the middle and the high school is they can't do the reading word problems. That takes reading. And if you can't take and read and map it out and draw it out, you're going to struggle. And reading is the key that opens the doors to better jobs, happier life, the whole world. And Chattanooga needs to realize it is involved in the world. It's like, hey, get your children involved in a foreign language. And I would suggest that you look at Chinese. The high schools here should be teaching Chinese and getting it introduced. There's going to be 3 major languages that are already there: English, Spanish, Chinese.
Talk about the role of phonics. Why are phonics important, and are phonics sufficiently used, or are they used in a kind of broken fashion in the public sector here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County?
Okay. Let me just refer back to my district I came from. I would let my kindergarten teachers know that come January, I would take and schedule a certain day, and I wanted each one of the kindergartners to come in and read to me. The teacher would have a story, and they'd come in, and I would sit in a chair next to the superintendent's chair, and I'd have them sit there, and they would read to me. Those children, through a good phonics program, and they could sound out the words. I don't care how big the word is. They had the skills, and because they had a good phonics base, they could even start telling you what the word meant, because prefixes, suffixes, you get these things put together, you take the word sub. Well, they knew that's below. So when it came to submarine, then they knew it was below water.
And they knew marine was marine life, like fish and algae, and so it's underwater. So let's say a word like interpretation. You've got how would a boy who has not seen the word before, how would he see the word on the page? Interpretation. What does he do with that word, and how does he figure it out? What's the phonics method?
Okay. I'm not sure I'm going to use the specific. There are different phonics methods out there. Our children were taught how to isolate the root word. Once they isolate the root word, they would mark that down. They would then take the prefix and they look at that, and see if that's one of the prefixes that they had learned to pronounce and the meaning of. Then they look for the suffixes and see if they knew what the suffix pronounce it and if they knew what the meaning was. And they would start putting it together. If they didn't know the root word, we helped them with that. And then they added, if it's in means part of, inside of, and they could start working together. By putting all the prefix, suffix, the key root word, they were able to take and on their own. And I had this experience this past week with a first grader, several words, because he is advancing so much. Matter of fact, he's getting to be pretty good at chess too, because we do for all the children, 1 through 8. We teach chess at the end of the day for them. If we have a little time left over before starting a new area, we'll sit down with them. We'll play chess. And it's kind of a challenge because they all are trying to beat me in chess.
Well, my question, Dr. Dwight Mayberry of Mayberry After School Learning Center on phonics is this. Let me refine the question. Does phonics or do phonics arise from the sound? You said that you teach how to sound out the word. Why is that important, sound?
Because if they learn their consonant blends, if they learn the sound of the long and short vowels, if they learn all the different parts and pronunciation, they can then, we're trying to teach children to be thinkers. Start thinking, okay, I remember that. And they start putting it together. And as they think and they start putting it together, they come up with the word and the understanding of the word. And then we teach them, okay, look at that word in a sentence. From the sentence, quite often, they can also figure out the meaning of the word.
By context.
Yes.
So the word interpretation, to get to the word, to get to the meaning, you first have to get to the sounds. So you have interpretation. So you say it, you learn, okay, you think you might know what it means. You see it in the context. The teacher may say, well, that means this. And therefore you obtain the word, but you obtain the sounds first, right? You string the sounds together. That's the phonics miracle, I guess you could say, right? Okay. So, and now on the math side, Dr. Mayberry, what does your After School Learning Center emphasize, or is there a protocol or a system that you use on that side of your program?
We look at, first of all, do they have the basic knowledge of the operations down, addition, subtraction? Do they know their facts? Many of the children do not know their facts. So we go back and we start drilling them on their facts. We start using illustrations on the facts. We give them some computer exercises on the facts. We try to hit them from several different ways of reinforcing until they have the skills. Then we get them to understand that, hey, and they like to get up in the whiteboard and do it. If you know multiplication, you know division, because it's the reverse.
So drill and, you might say, rote are important to gaining the basic skills in mathematics.
Yes. They have got to have the basic facts down. And parents, if your children don't have it, it's your responsibility to make sure that they do.
So my listener and his wife can have a multiplication table, right? On cardboard, maybe, that has all the way up to 9 by 9 or maybe 15 by 15. The children can memorize by exercise, taking half an hour, sitting down, no smart devices going, no TV. This is after dinner, and work on those basic math facts.
Yes, you can go to Kmart. You can go to any of these stores. There's a shoebox over by the mall. Go there. Pick up a set of flashcards. You can pick up a chart. When I'm working with the children, we've drilled them. And then all of a sudden, they come up 9 times 7, and they're stumped. I don't help them right off. There's the chart over there, and they go over and have to look at the chart, and then they come back and they tell me what 9 times 7
and eventually their eye knows exactly where all the lines are, and their eye can jump right to the chart. And at some point, that chart is internalized by just repeating the sum or the multiplication results,
and by also working with the computer in that and hearing it when the person's drilling them. They're hearing it, they're seeing it, it starts focusing.
Well, how expensive would it be for my listener to send his daughter, who's in the 7th grade, to your after-school situation, Dr. Mayberry?
Well, I have 6 volunteers now that help me. Myself and those 6, we're free. We volunteer completely. We do charge $4 an hour for one child. Now, if they're getting a piano lesson, they're probably going to be paying $20 to $25 for a half hour. We charge $4, so it's $8 a day for one child. If they have two children in the program, we give them a little reduction of $350. We get donations. Some people donate. We really need some more donations because these reading labs that we use are expensive, but they are successful with us working with it. They're very successful.
Well, how can my listener find out more about you, Dr. Dwight Mayberry?
Okay. You can take number one, we've sent out about 5,000 flyers. We need to develop a website. Right now, we have a waiting list of over 50 people wanting to come into the program that we've turned down. We will be having a summer school program that'll start the third week. We'll run 8 weeks during the summertime, and then we'll start back up in the fall. We are already committed. You can look, and there are phone numbers on. You can call me on my cell number or my home number, 423-362-8545. So give me a call. I'm glad to talk.
This is David Tulis, and we are talking with Dr. Dwight Mayberry of Mayberry After School Learning Center. We're brought to you by Advantage Printing, the print shop where my homeschool newsletter goes zipping out into the mails. I'm in fact working on it this Saturday on the Esprit newsletter, and it always ends up through the mails at Advantage Printing. Advantage is with the blue awnings right near the Belfour light on Brainerd Road, just by the Food City. Alan does in-house design, digital printing, mailing services that I take advantage of. Large format projects, and the number is 629-1800, 629-1800. And also make sure that you get your ductwork cleaned out by Ducts, the indoor air professionals. A special offer for you on your house. If you have your house ductwork done, there's a freebie, and that is the elimination of a fire hazard at your dwelling, and that is the dryer lint vent and the trap there that is clogged and threatening to burst into flames maybe tomorrow. This is David Tulis. Dr. Mayberry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, David.
The name is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time. We're at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio online at hotnewstalkradio.com. We have a YouTube channel. Just look for me there, and we're live on YouTube every day at 9 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm going to Carter Shooting Supply.
Carter Shooting Supply?
That's right, Carter Shooting Supply. They're having a great sale on all of their guns right now, and it's name brands like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Springfield.